What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. NBA All-Star break is here. We just passed the trade deadline. After that, we got about 22 games left until the playoffs. I need to make sense of it all as a Lakers fan, so I have brought on from the N.B.A. podcast, Finn Andros, to help me figure out what's going to happen down the stretch. Finn, what's going on, man?
What's up? An N.B.A. that's never bridges again. Basically, I'm a Hornets fan. My friend is a Suns fan. We lost both of our bridges, so the name is fitting.
Yes, it is. Right at the trade deadline, y'all finished that never bridges again finally. So first things first, as we all know, I'm a diehard Lakers fan. We finally got rid of Russell Westbrook, brought in D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and last night against the Pelicans, won with the whole crew together, AD and LeBron. So we're 13th in the West, but I'm ready to ramp it up talking about title hopes. How high should I get those hopes?
Not at all. Not high at all. If anything, that trade, I don't know if you want to go right into the trade, but my first reaction to the trade is just like, and you see it in the box score like last night, is just like y'all needed competent players in the door. All three of the guys you got have been starting for y'all. I know Beasley just started last night. He wasn't starting before that. But, I mean, y'all were playing the likes of Troy Brown and Lonnie Walker. Those guys wouldn't barely crack the rotation on a lot of the other contenders. That's why I say title chances, no. I see this trade as more of a setting up for next year kind of thing.
Okay, because I know we're 13th in the West. 2 games back from the play-in, I believe, 2.5 from the playoffs because the West is super tight. Do you think that we're going to be able to make the play-in, or should I just stop watching the games, save myself?
So I definitely think it's possible, especially seeing LeBron back. You know, me and you talk about it a lot, like watching AD, he puts up the numbers, man, but it's the most quiet numbers. Like, he had 19 and 20 the other night. It just, his impact doesn't feel like it's been there for a little bit. And then you got to look at the teams around y'all. So the Jazz are falling out. The Trailblazers are still around. And then the Thunder, that's the team I like, who did beat y'all the other night. That was LeBron's scoring record night, actually.
Yep.
So I say all that to say, definitely possible. I don't feel great about it because I'm a big fan of the Thunder, and then I still kind of like the Blazers. But hey, it's if y'all get there, it's definitely possible to make the playoffs with the roster you have now.
And you mentioned AD too, and it's always a question mark. Is he going to be healthy or not? And it's honestly not even really a question mark at this point because he is in and out of the lineup.
It's an exclamation mark.
Yeah, and it drives me crazy, along with, like you mentioned, when he's playing, you just don't feel him on the court. And he's a guy who was brought in to be the number one guy, to let LeBron kind of pull back a little bit and save himself some as he's gotten older. But LeBron is still having to carry us best as he can at this age.
Yeah, and with the moves y'all have made, though, this isn't like he has to do more on offense, but with the moves y'all are making, like the Rui Hachimura, Vanderbilt, even moves this past offseason with the likes of like Wyndon Gabriel, or I don't know if he's been on the team for a while before that, but y'all are surrounding AD with a front line that could kind of put him back to where he was in the bubble, where he was more roaming, helping, where y'all had like Dwight Howard defending the rim. So I like the moves in that sense. Like, these moves were partly to get AD back to where he needs to be for y'all to have a chance to compete.
And hopefully he can find his bubble jump shot as well.
Oh my God, that jump shot, man, it's falling apart.
I will not hold my breath on that. All right, we're not going to stay on the Lakers for too long because I get it. But the first blockbuster deal we had was Kyrie to the Mavs. Do you think there's enough time there for them to get things clicking and really become. I mean, they're a solid team in the West, but really compete for that number one seed out there.
I'm gonna keep it pessimistic, like with your Lakers. I don't see it. The thing was I wasn't as low on this trade as a lot of other people. For some reason, because the Mavericks, they've always thrived off of having another guard with Luka. You even saw it in the bubble. They played Trey Burke and Seth Curry a lot. Kyrie is a huge upgrade from that. The problem is they were already bottom five in defense and rebounding before this trade. They lost Dorian Finney-Smith. Now they're dead last in rebounding, which I look at a lot. That's a big stat I look at. And they're just small. It reminds me of watching the Hornets almost. They have no size on the wings. Bullock is like traditionally a shooting guard, but you're asking him to be small forward. Josh Green has taken a big step up, but he's still on the come up. I just don't see it. Like, the thing is, Luka and Kyrie could drop 50 whenever in any playoff game, but no one on this team could stop anyone. And one more thing I want to say on them is the Christian Wood thing is crazy because theoretically he's supposed to be an asset, and that includes someone you could have traded at the deadline to get a better defender. But the way they've treated him this season has made him not an asset. That would be a liability. So it's just a really messed up situation over there in Dallas.
And what are they thinking, honestly? Because you got Luka, who I don't think, just with his body type, I don't know if he's going to have a long prime, but he's in it now. And you're surrounding him with, like you said, a Christian Wood, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, like these guys. This is what Mark Cuban's been doing. Why? Like, why would you do that?
It's almost like a less bad version of what's going on with the Hornets the past few years, where it's just like short-sighted moves, not taking advantage of assets they've had. That includes picks and players. Like, someone like, you lost Brunson for nothing because you didn't want to extend him for super cheap. And to be fair, he wasn't what he is now. But you look at the Knicks, and he is playing so good.
Incredible.
And yeah, he would be honestly probably a better fit than Kyrie, even though Kyrie has got more pure talent. But the stuff Brunson, if you look at the driving numbers, Brunson last year was right up there with Luka. That just shows the hole he filled in the offense. And he knew how to fit with Luka. That's a big thing, because you could kind of see, even though it's early, you could see Luka and Kyrie kind of, the mojo's off a little bit. Luka is just like, you could kind of tell little hesitations when he's making his moves, like, should I pass it to Kyrie? But yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with Kyrie's he's the most high profile teammate Luka's had, and Luka's had all these super high usage rate years, whereas Kyrie has, like, he's mostly been second fiddle. Do you think that's in Luka's mind? Like, I have a teammate now. This has been the narrative around me. Luka doesn't have any help. That's why he hadn't won. Now I've got someone. So now he's overthinking what he's doing.
To, like, incorporate that guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely part of it. And then part of it is Luka was putting up historic usage numbers this year. And let's just face it, the guy seems to like putting up big numbers. Obviously, he likes to win, but, you know, saying things and doing them is a whole different thing. What I will say about Kyrie is, like, as many problems as he has off the court, he's super adaptable on the court. Like, you saw with the Nets, you're even seeing it now, how well he's managed to fit it. Like I said, there's growing pains, but even that first game, he managed to seamlessly fit into the Mavericks. He sets off-ball screens, he cuts, he makes sure people get the ball in transition. So as a basketball player, he does a lot of the things we want stars to do. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about their size and defense and rebounding.
I was looking at Kyrie, his usage stats, and he's only been the top usage guy on his team like a handful of seasons, like pre-Cleveland LeBron, when, of course, who are you going to give it to? Mm-hmm. In Boston, and then the Brooklyn year when Katie was injured. And so, like you said, I think on the court, I'm not worried about him. Now, off the court, that's a whole nother episode. But
Yep.
on the court, I think he's gonna be good.
Well, hey, I did want to mention one thing that ties back to your Lakers. I feel like part of that D'Angelo Russell trade was like, don't you think it's pretty likely we'll see like D'Angelo Russell sign and trade with the Mavericks, and the Mavericks will go like, well, at least we didn't lose those assets for nothing.
I think so, but I'm worried about everything else with Kyrie if we do that.
Yeah.
I think the rest of this season, because he's playing for a contract, essentially. So I think the rest of this season he's going to be on his best behavior because he seems to be able to really lock in when his money is at stake, as a lot of us are able to do. But then, like, the thought of giving him a long-term deal terrifies me.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
for sure.
coming from someone who's had to watch half a season of Dennis Schroeder and Pat Bev run the point. Like, I would love Kyrie.
But do you think it's worth the risk over like D'Angelo Russell though, or do you just like, even though D'Angelo Russell's got his problems, it's like you get him for cheaper and he's not as crazy?
I think I would want to go with D'Angelo Russell. We'll see.
Okay.
Now, it's entirely possible. I see, and I remember D'Angelo Russell has improved since he was on the Lakers previously, but it could happen that I see too many point guards blow by him the last 20 games, and I'm like, I'm opening my own wallet to bring Kyrie in. But right now, coming off the win last night, prisoner of the moment, let's keep D'Angelo and not give up anything else for Kyrie.
Yep.
So,
Sounds fair to me.
I
He
can't
fits
wait.
with the shooting.
I can't wait to look back at this and do a complete 180.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kyrie and your co-host Patrick, the big trade, Katie to the Suns.
Mm.
What does this do for them as a contender in your mind?
It makes them the second most likely finals winner besides Boston, in my opinion. I'm a huge Nuggets fan. They're my second favorite team. Love Jokic. And they've tried different things on defense this year, like switching up to zones, just trying different things. But I just don't. The Suns already matched up well against them a couple of years ago, and I just don't see how you stop the ridiculous scoring output, particularly from mid range by KD and Devin Booker with them. And the big thing with this trade is DeAndre Ayton has gotten a lot of slander. And to be fair, he started the year off but like bad, but can you blame him with all the chemistry stuff going on? But dude, since January 1st, he's averaging 21 and 11. And he's just one of those rare centers that can like switch out on the guys, match up well with Jokic on defense. They have a top 10 defense. They're top 10 in blocks. So he's obviously doing something right there. What'd you think of the trade when you first saw it?
Well, first of all, I about passed out. Um, but yeah, so it's incredible because it's like, how do you defend them? And then you mentioned Ayton and the numbers he's put up since the beginning of the calendar year, and how much higher do those numbers go? Because you can't help out off of Booker or KD to help send a double team to him if Ayton's killing you, and then you got Chris Paul too. Like, how do you stop this team from scoring? I know that they gave up a lot as far as defenders are concerned with Bridges and Cam Johnson. But if you're scoring 300 points a night, what do you do? My only question is obviously KD and Chris Paul's health.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing. But as for their defense, like I said, they've been top 10 in like people underrate their depth a lot. They got a lot of tough, smart guys on defense and they play together. And as great as Bridges was, and he contributed to that defense a lot, Like you could kind of fill in those holes. KD's great at defense. Torrey Craig has had a big year. He's contributed to their rebounding and why their front court's going to be so good. Like I said, with Ayton. So I think they have what it takes in that regard. And like you said, the injury is the injury concern is the only thing I'm worried about with them. Like if one of those guys goes out, then you're kind of out of luck with a finals run.
Yeah. And about KD and defense in particular, uh, he's got obviously the physical tools, even coming off all the injuries and everything. And I would think that with him, and I want to see Booker step it up defensively as well, but you would think with having to do less on offense as a result of having so many weapons, they would probably be able to expend a little bit more on that side of the court too, to make up for anything they may have lost with Bridges and Johnson. Speaking of them, do you think that Brooklyn got a pretty good return for giving up Kyrie and KD?
Oh yeah, I love the return they got because, like I said, my podcast is named after Bridges. I'm a big Mikal Bridges fan, have been since he was in college, and he has shown this year big leaps in things people have wanted him to do: off the dribble shooting, getting to the rim and finishing there, more free throws. What did he drop? 42 for the Nets the other night.
I think 45 or 47.
Oh wow, yeah. So he's a blue chip piece to get. Then you get Cameron Johnson, who's a quality starting power forward, great shooter. Then all those picks to kind of recoup what you gave up for Harden. So I love the move for them.
You think they're going to be able to hang on to, they're currently fifth. You think they're going to be able to hang on to that with, I feel like they've just got a team full of scoring wings.
Yeah, so I did have a big belief that they could. I have watched them since the trade, and that belief is kind of wavering because the concerns about having a primary scorer ball handler besides Dinwiddie, it's a concern. And then the Knicks are playing great basketball. The Heat are coming up on them, but I think they could stay in the playoffs. I did want to mention with them, it's been a thought on my mind, like watching them, like this would be a perfect Trae Young team, as much as I don't like him. But just like you see their lineup of like starting Mikal Bridges at two, Cameron Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm like, this is the lineup Trae Young needs, not like a random culmination of people who don't play defense.
Yes, that actually leads me to another question I had. I thought the Hawks were going to move either him or Collins. Or were there any trades that didn't happen that kind of shocked you?
Kelly Oubre on the Hornets. No, yeah, no, the Collins is a big one just because he's been in rumors so long. But when you're in rumors that long, you don't have much value. I guess God, I no. Well, I can't remember now. There was one I was thinking of, but I guess Boyan Bogdanovic, that was one I was thinking of on the Pistons. I get why they kind of wanted to keep him around, have an actual veteran in the locker room, but I'm sure a team would have forked over like a heavily protected first for him.
He was on my Lakers wish list. But like I said, I do think we did all right, but that dude can shoot. Okay, I guess on the flip side of that question, what are some trades that people, I mean, everyone's talking about Kyrie, KD, the Westbrook trade. What are some trades that happen that you think are flying under the radar, but are going to help the teams a great deal long term, or even just for the rest of this season?
The one I looked at a lot, it's not like it didn't get any talk, is the Luke Kennard to the Grizzlies because their shooting was very poor. And part of that is because they've been trying to play younger players who can't really shoot well. Luke Kennard is one of the best shooters in the league. So I think that was a really good minor move for them.
You almost got me. Dylan Brooks. What's the I think I saw 39% from the field, 31% from three.
It's tough though. It's tough because he's their hard-nosed defender. He's a guy you could throw at Luka. And as much as he's got the annoying Pat Beverly energy, you kind of do want a guy like that to muck stuff up. And I get Dylan Brooks isn't really popular right now, but obviously that's why they didn't trade him. They wanted a tough nosed defender like that.
Yeah, what do you think they're doing in the playoffs this year? I know
Yeah,
John said they were fine in the West.
I I've been wondering about that because I definitely before the year like thought they had a real chance to make the finals, and I still think it's not impossible. But I just think it's kind of like what people are talking about with the Warriors, like they're straddling the line between being young and competitive. It's just a really young team, and I think there will be another year or two of playoff experience that they need. But they can definitely make it. They have the talent they need.
I think my concern is like offensively. I'm not really sure what they're doing. And I love
Very chaotic.
it's like a pickup team, and like I love offense and teams that flow. I mean, Golden State is a great example of that. The Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash, like teams that are all about ball movement and everything. But it just kind of feels like, all right, we're going to the court on Sunday, and you play until you're beat, and then you get off the court. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, their best form of offense is definitely transition. I mean, they lost Kyle Anderson this past year, but they just have so many big wings that could handle in transition. But that's like what we were just saying. Like they play a chaotic brand of basketball. Even their half court, it like you said, it's like pickup. It's Steven Adams is setting the same screens as my dad, and
Yeah,
just like when he sets that screen, whoever is guarding Jaw just gets absolutely clobbered, and Jaw
crush.
is so good at that in that 10 to 14 feet with those floaters. So that's like their go-to. Bane's really good, but he's still developing as like a primary ISO scorer. So yeah, I'm with you there though. Their defense, not a problem. Their defense is great, but like you said, the offense is a big question mark.
And you mentioned Golden State. They have struggled this year. They're 500 and they're 22-7 at home and 7-22 on the road. Something ridiculous like that. I don't know. Like they have complete opposites versus at home versus away their schedule. What's going on? Do they have a prayer to repeat this year?
So it's tough to like count them out, even though they're like, what are they, ninth in the West right now?
I believe so.
It's just because I don't know if you like know this stat, but in every single playoffs since their original championship run, 14-15, if they've been in the playoffs, they haven't lost to a Western Conference team. So it's kind of hard to bet on them in that sense, but in the same way, they're just not as good on defense this year. And it just seems like there's some bad juju going on. But the thing is, if you have Steph Curry, it doesn't matter. They could just turn electric at any second. So, like, they might be a unique case of like a low seed team that wouldn't shock you to make the finals.
Were you surprised at all that they didn't try to move Draymond at the deadline?
No, I'm not.
I guess you got to kind of like you got to try to run it back with the same squad.
Well, as annoying as Draymond is, just like how important he is to their struggling defense. Like when things get real in the playoffs, you need that guy to guard all these crazy front court players because the stuff he was doing last playoffs was downright impressive for someone who a lot of people think is on his tail end.
Yeah. Speaking of Draymond, what are your thoughts on Jordan Poole?
Oh man. Um can't stand the guy, can't stand his face like a lot of other people. I won't condone someone punching him, but there was definitely that like reporting that came out after that's like, yeah, he's been pissing everyone off. It makes sense. But I mean, the thing is, he would come in last playoffs and do Steph Curry things while Steph Curry was on the bench. So I think he's a super talented scorer. Doesn't play any defense. Probably one of the most important spark plug six men that we have, though.
And I watched the one game where Steph got ejected for throwing his mouthpiece because Poole took a wild shot near the end of the game. And then like a week or two ago, Clay got pissed at him for doing something similar too. So I just don't. You'd hope to see some sort of growth from him offensively. As far as I'm the last person to talk about shot selection because I'll shoot it as soon as I walk in the door. But when your teammates are getting ejected because they're so frustrated with what you're doing, might be time to rein it in a little bit. And I think I heard Draymond give a quote about how teams don't really have to adjust as much to the Warriors because Poole is so much like Steph with the second unit. Whereas before they had the second unit's offense looked a lot different from the first unit. So teams kind of kept teams on their toes defensively.
That's an interesting point. I do want to piggyback on what you're saying with the chemistry thing. Like that is something that I haven't heard much talked about in the media. But I don't know. Do you think it's like him winning a championship and how well he played? Sorry about that. How well he played influenced this change in behavior? I mean, probably, right?
It had to. And he was already a dude who you could tell he's feeling himself, and as you should. But I think getting the ring, getting paid, and he came into camp knowing he was going to get paid. And then Draymond did Draymond things to him, which, as you said, I don't condone that, but the dude does seem annoying as hell.
Yeah, for sure. I guess if you want to move on to my big favorite,
yeah,
we could talk about them because I know we were kind of trying to break down the rest of the season because the Celtics have been on my mind all year. And the past however long we've known each other, we both hate the Celtics, always have.
Yeah.
Thing is, as a basketball team, they've won me over these past couple of years just because it's kind of like how the Raptors were a few years ago, where you watch them and it's just like, all right, they're so deep. They're full of players I like. I mean, you've been seeing what Derek White's been doing. I've always been a big Derek White fan. Like, this is a guy who, when he was with the Spurs, was dropping 50 bombs against Jamal Murray. Like, and he's their backup point guard. He gets switched super well. He's great on defense. Like, having the combination of Marcus Smart, Brogdon, and Derek White, it's the opposite of what I was saying with the Mavericks. Like, Brad Stevens and before him, Danny Ainge have just like managed assets so well. Like, protected first round picks for legitimately great rotation players is ridiculous.
And they all know their role, I think, is the
exactly.
They know their role and they just go out and they do that and they don't do anything past their role. And it feels so rare. You get guys who just get out there and they're just wild, like Russell Westbrook. He didn't know his role on the Lakers. He thought he was still OKC Russell Westbrook. And he gets out there. He doesn't really know his role. And everything goes to shit when that happens. But the Celtics, as much as I hate them to this day, Marcus Smart especially, I'll fight you if I see you, they just know their role and they're so smooth and they can hit threes. I feel like everyone on that team can shoot threes except for Robert Williams.
Well, that's been a big thing this year is with Missoula. They started the year firing away from three. They've even kept that up since Robert Williams has come back. So that's been a good dimension they've added to their game, and an offense that got so muckied up that they almost gave their trip to the finals away to the Heat last year. I guess I want to ask you, with all that being said about their great depth and like they're a top end talent, still so great too. I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of talk of the league is wide open this year, and it is more wide open than usual. But I kind of think that the Celtics are kind of more so an overwhelming favorite than other people do. What do you think about that?
I think to me, the East in particular is Boston and Milwaukee. And then I don't know as stacked as I don't even know if stacked isn't the right word, but as wide open as the West is. I don't see a team, even though they have all this talent over there, and we're going to see what Phoenix does with KD. I don't see a team right now that I think can stop either Boston or Milwaukee. And Boston in particular, their offenses just look so smooth. And Milwaukee's kind of flown under the radar for me, particularly for a team with Giannis is incredible. They've won a ring before. Middleton's back. Holiday's an all-star, but Boston just looks like a machine.
Well, I think the other night is kind of a good well, it is Milwaukee, so that's a big reason they've flown under the radar. But as much as I like Milwaukee, and in fact, they were my pick to make the finals before the year, it's been a thing with them with Giannis and their current team construction. As much as I love their team, their offense at times, it's so reliant on a lot of guys taking threes that you don't really trust. It's a lot of old role players like Wesley Matthews, Joe Ingles, even Crowder, who hasn't played in a year. While like the Celtics, as good as they are, they're still young. And that's definitely a big advantage there. And you even saw the other night, the Celtics were missing like a bunch of their best players, and they went to overtime just because the way they were defending Giannis was forcing him into mid-range shots. And obviously that's not his game. His game is getting to the rim, and he couldn't make any free throws either. The echoes of the past, the demons of the past. Yeah, that's why, as much as I like Milwaukee and I love Drew Holiday, I love Chris has been getting better, but that injury seems to have really affected him too. That's another big thing. Obviously, Giannis would be the best player in the series. Tatum has struggled in big games this year, but I'm a Jason Tatum believer. I'm a big fan of his, and I don't know. I look at the youth, the depth, the shooting. Like Boston's offense has just been way better, and then you have Al Horford, who even at his old age, they found ways to keep him fresh. Yeah. He's been one of the only Giannis stoppers that we've had the past few years. So yeah, that's my case right there for them just being like a little above everyone else.
And I do think, to your Tatum point, like that does concern me, how he has come up short in big games.
For sure.
But then you do have like Jaylen Brown. He has turnover issues, but he's shown he has at least the willingness to take over when Tatum isn't at his best. And with Milwaukee, like you said, Middleton's still trying to work through that injury, and Holiday, as great as he is, he can't replicate what Giannis does by any means, the way that Brown can come close to doing what Tatum does. And so that's a big thing, along with all the other factors you mentioned as well. What are you thinking about Philly?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up earlier. Like, I love how everyone's just like Philly has been just as good as like all the best teams, but no one will acknowledge them as a serious title contender, and that's obviously because of people like Doc Rivers and James Harden, who are proven losers and collapsers in the playoffs. Not to hate on, like, I'm a James Harden fan, not a Doc Rivers fan. Embiid, man, I theoretically love him as a player. Hate watching him. I don't hate watching anyone more than Joel Embiid, because it's just a crybaby fest. It's flailing into people. It's foul baiting. It's just it's been annoying to watch for years. And I like the trade they made for my Jalen McDaniels from the Hornets. They've got great wing depth. They've got great guard depth. They have everything they need to win. Talent-wise, they're just as good as anyone. I just don't trust the culture, the mental fortitude. I just don't trust it till I see it.
Yeah, and with Embiid too, you always wonder about him. When's the injury coming? I saw that he might sit out the All-Star game because he's bothered by something now too. You're right. He's just aesthetically, he's like a 7 foot Harden if Harden cried
Yeah.
more. And it's just
Yeah.
like cannot stand this.
And we have to mention, like, we both acknowledge how great he is. Like,
Incredible player. Hate watching him. Incredible player, and gets very caught up in like his different little feuds and stuff during the game, and it affects him in like you hear the stories about Michael Jordan where a guy pissed him off and he'd run off 18 straight. Embiid has the opposite effect. He gets so caught up in the antics and everything that's what he's focused on instead of playing ball. And it is hard to trust them because when have they had any great playoff success? Any of those guys? Like, no one's done it. Rivers was carried to a title in Boston years and years ago. But since then, he is the game 7 loser. Like, he can find a way to lose. Harden, same thing. Embiid, same thing there. I just don't trust them, although they are on the cusp of that Phil Jackson stat. I don't know if you've heard the quote where Phil says true championship contenders will reach 40 wins before they reach 20 losses. And they're right on the cusp of that, but I don't believe them.
Well, and then one thing about them, and it was kind of what I was saying about the Bucks, but to like a higher extent, and every team's going to have drawbacks usually. But the thing is, like with Boston, they have a great defense. Like, take Grant Williams, for example. He's a great defender, and he can knock down threes at a crazy rate. With the Sixers, you have PJ Tucker, who refuses to shoot and is as old as a dinosaur, but is great on defense. Then you have Maxey, who's an amazing offensive player, but obviously so bad on defense, they have to start D'Anthony Melton now. So that's a big thing. Like, the thing with the Bucks, even though they have like player flaws, it's like I trust the mentality of Giannis and Drew over Embiid and Harden and Doc Rivers,
1,000%. So yeah, I will not be putting any money on them. All right. I think we've covered everything I want to cover. So overall, big picture, what are you expecting the final stretch of the season?
I'm expecting a really good playoffs, first of all. Hopefully, we always get such injured playoffs. Hopefully that trend doesn't continue. Like, we want to see Katie and Booker. We want to see Luka and Kyrie. I'm expecting, I don't know why my mind went to this, but it's just they've been one of my favorite teams. I'm expecting the Thunder to make the play-in because I don't know how much you watch them, but I recommend anyone listening to make an effort to watch them because they play beautiful basketball. Like, the plays that Shea and Giddey create for others and Jalen Williams, I could go on and on about them. And I guess the biggest thing to expect the Celtics to win the finals. That's my biggest theme of the season.
With OKC, that's a team that had the number 2 overall pick this past N.B.A. draft. The guy's not playing because he's hurt, and they're still in the position that they're in, doing the things they're doing. And I don't know. They've got the small market thing figured out.
Isn't Shea just so fun to watch, man?
He's so smooth. He is so smooth. And it to the point where I learned how to say Shea Gilgeous Alexander.
Someone at work last week called him Shy Gilgeous. I don't even know if he got as far as Gilgeous, but
he just ended it right there. Just all right, I've already lost. But no, I think you're spot on. I don't know. We'll see what Katie looks like on Phoenix and how long that takes to come together, but I don't know how you beat the Celtics. Unfortunately, I'm trying to figure out a way because I can't live in a world like that. All right. Well, where can people find you and your stuff and what you're doing?
All right. So go to Finn Andros on YouTube, and then I make music too. So you should go on Spotify and check that out if you're into more like ambient type beats for chilling out, studying, that type of thing. But yeah, check them out. I love basketball. I love music. I'm planning to put a bunch of content out for both of those things in the future. I appreciate you having me on too.
No, this has been fun. I will get you and Patrick back on as well. Got to have Patrick on, your co-host. But this has been another episode of Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. I will catch y'all next week.